Hey guys, welcome back to this next episode. In this episode, you can consider this as a bonus, so you don't have to follow along, because I would like to talk about modeling and texturing. So I'm not going into detail, otherwise this whole course would take forever. And for future courses, I will explain maybe more in detail about Blender Essentials, how to hard surface model, and how to texture. But this is just a quick bonus episode, and you get this storage ready for download and place it into your Resident Evil Unreal Engine project. So what I did basically is I went on the internet, searched for some references, and in this case a storage from Resident Evil. Yeah, I had a rough estimation about like dimension and like the edges, the metal, and the inner surface, which is wood, and stuff like that. So, but when I started to model, let me just hide all this stuff, so you only have the base, so only you have the box. Let me get into the front view. So basically what I did, let me just get with Shift A, let me get a cube. Let's just get this plane here, and then into object mode I can just scale it up roughly. And then I made sure, go back into the object mode, I can just use the measure tool, and then I wanted to make sure that I have like approximately half the size of the character. So maybe between 80 and 90 centimeters, so almost 1 meter, 0.8, 0.9, something in between there. So this is exactly like 0.82 in height. And for the length, so on the x-axis from left to right, I made sure that I have approximately something like 1.5 meters at least. So in this case, this is 1.7 meters. Then you can consider the depth is pretty easy to find out. Just make sure that it's not too deep and is also not like too narrow. So I made sure that I had a box roughly the shape of the one you can find in Resident Evil. So if you're wondering what I did here, so it looks smooth and everything. Of course, it's high poly, so let me show you. And you can see also the red edges. This is already unwrapped, so you can see the UVs. Basically what I did, just really quick. I'm not going to remodel this, otherwise it's going to take forever. But what I did, so let me just get this roughly the dimension. Just press E and extrude on the Z-axis. Then you can just go back into the object mode, and then Control A and make sure that you click on all transforms. So that has been reset. So when you go back into the edit mode, you just scale this like so, and on the y-axis like so. So what you can do regarding the reference, when you look at the storage from Resident Evil and Resident Evil 1 and 2, I found out that it has this dark reddish brownish wood that's on the inner surface, and then you just extrude those outer edges, or like I should say outer faces, which is metal. It's pretty easy to do that. You can just press Ctrl R, and then if you want to have it even, just Ctrl R and click, and then B, so you have it even on the top and bottom. So this is what you can do. So you make sure that you have a face here, and then also you do Ctrl R here. Just double click so you can assign it right away, and you make roughly the shape like so. And then if it's not enough, you can see here I also have some metal extruded. So I just made sure that I have something like this. Maybe then you can bevel this, Control B as well. Maybe just put it up. So it's about taste, right? Also, we should do this as well on this side here. And then just make sure that you alt shift click those loops in face mode, of course. So this one and this one and this one. And we need this. And we need this. Just double click. And double click this one with the alt shift. Yeah, we don't need this bottom stuff, we can just delete it later. So yeah, but I don't want to model everything, I just want to show you roughly what I did, basically. Then you can just Alt-E, press Alt-E to extrude all faces at the same time, according to their normals. But then you can see this is all like really weird, it's not straight. So what you can do basically is press 1, go into the X-ray mode, so make sure you stay in faces, and then you can just select this outer face here, right? And then just SX0. Sorry for that, SX0, so, okay. And then you do the same stuff here. So you can also just click and then Control click. And then just SX0, enter. For the top part here, you can also just click everything here, just Control click, and then SZ, this is on the Z axis. And then of course you also need to do that on this side here. So just get this one. And this would be on the y-axis, so SY0, enter. And you do this for the back side. Okay. And the same strategy you should apply for the top. So I was just making sure that, I mean, you can just extrude this on the Z-axis like so, if you want. just to make it really quick. And then you can get really fancy. You can maybe just insert an edge loop here, maybe another one here, and then maybe something like here. And then you can define, maybe you want this one, this, and this, maybe bevel that. So it's up to you. I'm just telling you what you can do, or I'm just showing you what you can do here. And then I would just control click. And then you can do, maybe you just extrude that, and then maybe you can just get the top part. So how you can do that? It's pretty simple. You just click on this one, Alt Shift, this. So all those outer edges. And then press E and middle mouse button to snap it. Make it like so. And then Control plus, and then just P, so you have this top part here separated. And then you can just continue from there, Alt Shift click this upper edge here, and then you can just press F, Control T, just to make sure that they have no n-gons. But of course, I would not do that, to be honest. I would just undo that. And what you can do, since this is separated, you can just get rid of those things here. Then you will just remodel this. Or maybe you also want to extrude those edges here, those corners. So just get rid of those edges here, X, and then dissolve edges. So then you have a perfectly fine, you have a face here, or you can just delete this again, and maybe just Alt Shift click this again, press F. Then you will be able to maybe, so yeah, you can see here now, here's a problem, right? He's not really leveling this inner edge here. So what you can do, there are several ways to check this. Maybe first the face orientation, and then you can see, okay, it's the face orientation. So just click on those red ones, Shift click, and then Alt N and flip. Also at the same time, just press A in edit mode, and then you can press M by distance. So just to make sure that everything is merged. Let's just leave the face orientation. So if you're wondering, like, where can I get the face orientation? Just click here on the top right and then face orientation. But I strongly advise you to just right click and add to quick favorites, as I did. But this is something, of course, I did already explain to you in the previous episodes. So now you can also maybe just get this one here. Make sure that when you press 1 that you have roughly the same thickness here, and then Control 3 to have a side view, and then Control R, double click, Control B, and then you can just do like so. And then you will also be able to just extrude this, Alt Shift click, and we want to extrude this one as well, and this one. And you can already see here, this is not really clean, so we can just get rid of this. So sometimes Blender is just weird, but you can just get rid of this. And even if he's like, no, I don't want to delete this, then you can just maybe completely delete everything. Why bothering? Get rid of that. Since I'm lazy, I can just Control R here, go into X-ray, go to faces, select this whole chunk here, and just delete those faces. Then you can go back into edge mode, pressing 2, Alt Shift click, or drag select everything, which is which is more safe. And then Shift S, cursor to selected, pretty important. Tab, Object, Origin to 3D cursor. And from there, Q, Mirror, or Modifiers, plus Generate Mirror. Boom. And make sure in this case, clipping is enabled. So clipping means that just in case if this line here, which is right in the center, is overlapping, we prevent this one from clipping, and it gets merged automatically. Then we can leave the X-ray, and now you can see we have this one is clean as well. So now again, Alt Shift click this one, and this, and this. And then you can do the same stuff. So Alt E for extrude faces along normal, and just do like so. And then press 1, go into the X-ray, and then just select the upper faces, like so. And make sure it's straight, so SZ0. This one will be on the Y-axis, so SY0. And this is SX0. And this one is SX0. So this is just my way of doing that. Maybe some people have maybe a better way, or a different, or at least a different way. So yeah, but this is just what I do. So this is just the rough shape. Of course, I did more stuff. So maybe I did more like extrude here. On top, I have a lock here, which is just also a cube. And then I was just extruding this stuff. And making a circle inside and a hole and stuff like that, but I will show you. It's pretty simple to do that. It's just really important that you always work as clean as possible. So everything is perfectly straight, everything is snapped and all that stuff. That everything is perfectly clean. And when you realize like, oh, the topology here is completely like broken or something is wrong here, what you also can do, just go back into the X-ray mode, delete this whole chunk, so like 1/2, and you can just X and delete all those things, and you can just re-mirror it. All right. Then when you have, this is just something I do sometimes when I see there's something broken. Okay. So now this would be like the first step you do, and then you want to have some high poly stuff, right? The thing is, when you just press Q and subdivide, or you go to modifiers here and generate a subdivision, with Catmull-Clark, you're going to have something like this, which is pretty weird. If you go to simple, this doesn't make any sense. As you can see here, I'm just disabling this, enable. It's not going to change anything. So we want to have the Catmull-Clark because it's giving us like soft edges, but still it's hard surface, but it's looking really nice. So what I do for those things in order to make my hard surface mesh high poly, but as clean as possible. So basically, I'm not really changing topology, I'm just multiplying topology. What I do, since I'm really lazy and I don't care for poly counts, press tab, Control A, make sure that you apply all transforms always before you bevel. Press tab, back in edit mode, and then you can just select everything in edge mode. So press 2 and then A in edge mode to select everything, and then just Control B and Shift drag. And you can see now we have 2 edges. Basically, we are doubling every single edge. This is not enough. Just use the mouse wheel to make sure that you have 3. So instead of 1, now we are basically adding 2 more edge loops or 2 more edges on this whole top, on this whole mesh. And then I will always go for approximately maybe something like, this is maybe too narrow, this is too much, right? So this would be way too much. This is too narrow, so I always go for something in between so that I still can see that I have this nice round shape. But you really have to be careful, because when you look at the small things, always make sure, let me undo that, always make sure when you drag, Control B and then drag, that you're not getting too big here, because then it's going to overlap, and this is horrible. And then your mesh is basically broken. So always check, once you beveled, always check every single corner, every single line before you continue, that you don't overlap, okay? Everything needs to be even, the space, so you need to have enough space, okay? So now I bevel, this bevel is perfectly fine. And then you can just right click and shade auto smooth. In this case, shade auto smooth is fine. Or let's just try shade smooth is actually fine, because we have now 3 edge loops on every, so every edge is now triple. And this is the same thing I do for, let me hide this, and the same thing I do here. Of course, you can just like say, oh, I just want to bevel this, Alt Shift click, and I would just want to bevel this and this. But this is a tedious process. The problem here is you will always gonna have broken topology. No matter how hard you try, you will always find a corner. Just for example, when I do this, you will always get some broken topology. So you can see now this is a little weird, and then sometimes, for example, if I just do it like so, you can see here, this is just one example. This is not clean, this is not good. So what I tend to do in most cases, especially when I have something like this, I just press A and just bevel everything, I think. Like so. Maybe like so. And then, as I told you before, check every single corner here, that you're not overlapping. Okay? And then I will show you how to proceed. Let me go into X-ray, because no, wait. I want to get rid of this bottom part, because this is something we'll never see. So yeah, we don't need that. Yeah, it would be smart to do that before, right? So let me just undo that. And then I can just go into the X-ray. Let me select all those faces. And then I can just delete those. I don't need to straighten them, so just straight delete. And then we are saving topology, and also at the same time we are saving UV space. You can see it's not really straight, so Alt Shift click on those edges, and then SZ0. And when you can see here, we can snap this. So go to vertex here. So by default it's increment. Go to vertex, click on the snap button, and then press GZ in this case, and just toggle over this corner here, and then it's perfectly snapped. So because you don't need topology here, right? It's pretty useless to have topology there. And then also you can delete this, whatever that is. We don't need that. Control plus. So click on this face. Control plus, just to expand your selection, and then you can just press X and faces. So just do some cleanup. All right, and then we can proceed by pressing A, and then just Control B, Shift, drag, like so. And this is already enough. And then shade, right click in object mode, shade smooth. And you can see, yeah, it looks much better. It's soft, but still you have like some issues here, even with 3 edges now. You can see it's just, I mean, what you can do is auto smooth, and then just play with the angle. So maybe let's do 45. Still not enough. 60. So 60 is basically the same. But we want to make this really good, like good looking and high poly. So what I do is, when I beveled, first of all, I set my UVs. When I believe, okay, this is done, I modeled this part and everything is fine, there's nothing I need to add, then what I do is I cut my seams first. It's pretty important. Because when we subdivide and then I cut my seams, this is a tedious process, so because we have too much topology. So what I do for hard surface modeling, I always do in 90% of cases, as I told you, I bevel with 3 edges. So that you can see for every edge now, instead of 1, we have 3. And I always take the middle edge here, like so. You can also click on this one here, on the top right, just to see what's going on. So it's better for my eyes. And then I can see the lines better. And then I always make sure that I have those edge loops here, which are centered. And now you have to imagine, okay, so I want to have, this is metal, right? This part, this is metal, this should be metal, and this should be metal later on. So what I need to do, and then we have some, we extruded those things here, those metal parts. So this is what I need to cut as well. So I want to have wood here inside, so I want to cut this. And make sure that you don't have any gaps. Okay, so you want to cut this one. It's just Alt-Shift-Click. It's just Alt-Shift-Click and Alt-Shift-Click. And then you can see, you have to imagine, this is a picture, right? This now should be a picture when we unwrap this. So think 2-dimensional instead of 3-dimensional. And then this one, the middle edge, sorry for that. Here, the middle edge, we need to do this here as well. Always Alt-Shift-Click and Alt-Shift-Click. So everything here is connected, okay? So don't do that, right? So now we can, now we know, okay, this is wood. This should be wood later here, this inner surface. And then we don't have anything on the bottom here, so this is fine. So we can see this should be unwrapped perfectly. And this one should be unwrapped. And yeah, this should be fine. I mean, this should be enough. We could also do maybe make a selection like so, just to have it a little cleaner maybe when we unwrap. But I think it's not needed, because then we have to unwrap this one. Make sure that you cut this, that you cut those edges as well. So just Shift-Click. And then basically this is going to be a separate part, like a separate metal part later in the, when we unwrap the UV. So this should be much cleaner. But yeah, as I said, make sure that you cut this like so. Pretty important. And then let's get this edge here and this one, just Alt-Shift-Click. If you have trouble sometimes with the zoom, and then sometimes Blender is like you scrolling and it's all out of place, you can just go to View and then Frame Selected. And then you are back. Have a nice camera, and then you are back in business basically. So yeah, just make sure that maybe we cut those outer loops as well, just to have this. I mean, imagine this one is 1-dimensional. Okay, so this is going to be a really nice metal texture later. All right. What you can do as well is maybe you don't want to have this unwrapped like so. Like this would be vertically and this is horizontally. If we keep it like this, the seams. But if you want to have this vertically and you want to have this vertically and you want to have this vertically and this one, which is also legit, of course, you can just click this and just connect those. But make sure they are all connected. Okay, so then we have one whole chunk like so, and then we have one chunk like so. Of course, we need to unwrap this later. Oh, sorry, like so. No, like so. And this one, so we get this whole UV island here, like one separate chunk here as well. And then we have the ability, when I press 1 for perfect front view, then I have the ability that this is vertically aligned. This will be vertically aligned if you want to, and this one as well. I mean, it's not needed, it's not necessary, but I just want to show you how you mark your seams to have really nice UV. The same stuff, this is the front, right? So this is looking good. So we know that this is a chunk, this would be a perfect flat chunk. This would be a perfect flat chunk, this one, and then we have, oh, sorry, this is not good. We need to cut this one as well. Alright? So we do know we have one chunk here, which is completely connected. We're gonna have a whole chunk here. This is going to be one chunk of UV, and this one. Okay, so I hope now you get the idea how to cut UVs. But the more you do it, the more you will know. It's just practice and repetition. And then you will know what works best and what not. Okay, I will just avoid doing that. So the side and this one and the back, because it's just for demonstration purposes, okay? So then I would just press U and then mark seam, okay? And then you can just go back, press Tab, Control A, apply all transforms again, pretty important. Just to make sure you don't necessarily need to do that because we did it already before we beveled, but just make sure that it is. And then press A again for selecting everything, and then you can just press U, unwrap, and then angle based. Now, if you go to UV editing, you can see. So of course we didn't really mark the seams. This one, this should be. Let me see. Let me press 3. So yeah, you can see this is the side here. This would be the other side, I guess. It is, yeah. And this is basically something we also didn't mark. Yeah, of course you have to mark the seams here as well, right? So you make a whole cut here, a loop. Maybe you have to make a cut here around this this whole edge loop. And so you get the idea. You basically make a 3-dimensional object into you cut it into a flat object, and this is why you need to have like this whole edge loop as a seam and without any gaps. Okay. Good, but as you can see, this one here, when I press 3 and just hover over this and press L, and then let me just, so this is the front we did, you can see now, and you can see how clean that is. It's all straight, it's all the same size, it's all aligned vertically, everything, we don't even need to rotate chunks, because it's all in the same direction. So you can see, this is the perfect front, and this is what we unwrapped. Perfect. And yeah. This is how I unwrap my UVs. Of course, you have to do this here as well, and here as well, and on the back side as well, and also the inner side you have to cut. You would have to cut this whole thing, so basically, like, Control-Shift this one, Control-Shift, Control-Shift this, and then this one, and this one. And you do the same basically here as well. So this should be cut. This one should be cut, and you should cut this one, like so, so that you have this whole edge loop. Good, okay, but you get the idea. So yeah, this is how I cut my UVs, and then let me just get rid of this because I did show you what I did basically, and this is the top I modeled, and let me just reveal everything. Oh no, I forgot something. Sorry, I forgot something. So what I do next. I go back into the object mode, because now our UVs are, so we marked our seams, like everything is clean, everything is connected, we don't have any gaps. And we can see, yes, our UVs, they are all straight, everything is fine, we have no stretching. And then, after I did apply my UVs, then I go to the modifiers tab, and generate, and do subdivision, or in my case, Q, subdivision surface. And you can see now it's working. Now the Catmull Clark is making our mesh really nice and sexy and soft, but still we have those edges, but everything looks really, really nice. And the reason for that is because we beveled everything. So you have to bevel at least that you are going to have 3 edge loops on every edge here. So this is just my approach. Two would not be enough. Good. And then you have to understand subdivision means when you subdivide something, the Catmull-Clark method, it's going to soften up your hard surface. And this is why we have to basically strengthen our edges with the bevel. So the more edge loops you have supporting your edge, the stronger your edge is going to be, and the Catmull-Clark is not going to screw up and completely destroying your hard surface. Right? So this is how the Catmull-Clark subdivision is working basically. Now you have a perfect mix of getting a smooth edge and still having a nice hard surface. And then I always go for at least 2 levels. So you can see the difference already. So this is not subdivided. All right. Let me just shade smooth, or let me try shade auto smooth. So 30 in this case would be enough. And then you can just get 1 subdivision. You can see it's already looking much better. But still, let me do another one. And now you can see everything is fine. So see here, just tiny shading issues. Here, this is not really correct. But when you subdivide this again, now it looks really good. And your UVs are still, when you apply this, right? Let's apply the smoothing and the subdivision. When we go back, now you can see the mesh is really dense. Okay? But we still maintain the whole quality of our subdivision. And our UVs, when we go into edit mode and press A, our UVs are still exactly the same. Okay, so now what we did is the right order. First, we marked the seams when it was low poly. So then for us, it's pretty easy to find the loop, and we all shift click and like all the necessary seams are ready. We marked everything. The thing is now, after applying subdivision, we are going to have stretching. Trust me, from my experience, we are going to have stretching because still the Catmull-Clark will soften up those edges, and this is why when this perfect flat surface here is not really being affected, but everything around the edge, still you will face some UV stretching. And this is not really good. So what you need to do is, since you already have all your seams, okay, after the subdivision, you press A, and then you unwrap again, angle-based. So what we just did is we marked the seams for our UV, then we unwrapped it on angle-based, just to see what's going on, right? Don't mind this. This is not a good UV. This is garbage. But we did not mark the seams here, right? We did not mark the seams here on top and on the side and on the back. We just did it for demonstration purposes for the front, all right? So this is the reason why when I show you again that everything here, you can see all those things here are really, really nice and clean and straight. They're following all the same direction. You can see this is perfect. Okay? And then we did subdivide 2 times with Catmull-Clark. Now, the thing is, we have to reapply or like unwrap again. This is not a big deal because we already have our seams. This is the smart approach, okay? By the way, sometimes when you see those blue lines, I know it is pretty annoying. You go to edge and then clear sharp from vertices. All right? Because we don't want that. We don't want sharp edges. This is going to screw up our normals and our shading. We don't want that. We want to have everything smooth and not sharp. Sometimes he's just doing that automatically. When you select something, you unwrap, and sometimes he's just doing that. This doesn't make any sense. But we did unwrap, and we can see, okay, everything is nice and smooth, and we are really happy. But the problem is later if you export this now, this part, for example, you're going to face, because we did subdivide, we're still going to face around those edges UV stretching. We will have some kind of UV stretching. Because when the Catmull-Clark is applied, you have to consider we had an edge here and we had an edge here. So 3 edges here, 3 edges here, 3 edges here. Once you subdivide, those edges, they get stretched, like from here to there and from here to there, and then here and here and here and here. They get stretched. On a flat surface, we will not face UV stretching, but on all those edges, we will see some kind of stretching. This is a problem. But we are clever. We already did our UV. I lost this one here. Sorry for that. Let me just reapply this. You can also do shift click this one and then control click this. Oh, sorry, this one. And then just mark seam. Okay. So what we need to do, after subdivision, we need to do our unwrapping again. Okay, but it's really important that first you do mark your seams, unwrap it just as a preview, then you do the subdivision just exactly like I did show you before, and then since you have your seams, you apply the subdivision, you apply it, okay, and then in edit mode press A and then you unwrap again. This is no problem. The UVs are still the same. Only thing what changed, you can see here, this is what we unwrapped, this is what we did, okay? So don't mind that, alright? But this is what we did here. You can see it's still exactly the same, it's all perfect. Okay? Everything is perfect, it's straight, and it has all the same direction. So this is what I do. So first mark your seams, then unwrap, angle-based unwrap, and then do your subdivision. Make sure everything is nice and sexy and everything, like those edges are clean and the whole topology is clean. And then you just go back into the edit mode, select everything again, and then you do the unwrap again. Okay? So this is just my approach, how you can do that. Good. So let me get rid of this. And let me reveal this. Yeah, let me get rid of this. So this is what I modeled. This one here. You can see. It's really high quality. And I took my time. You can see. Those red edges are my seams, my UV seams. Now you can see. And yeah, I have some sharp edges here. Which is not really a problem because it's the inner side, so we will never really see it. But just for the sake of it, let me select everything, edge, and clear. Okay, just to make sure. You can see what I modeled here. So I did extrude those things separately again, just to make it more like bulky. Then I have the top. So I modeled the top here. You can see. Then I have a lock. So I just put like a cube, and then you can see it's just basically, it was a cube, and then I just extruded here along those lines, along those edges here, and then extruded down, and on top of that I was extruding this one here, and then I made something like this. Cut this one out, made another cube, extrude. You can see also it's beveled here, everything. Oh, you can see like how many edge loops are here inside. And yeah, just extrude this one here, made a hole. So I did show you in the previous episodes how to do that. It's pretty easy. And yeah, so, and also for the holes, make sure when this is low poly that you select this whole edge loop here as well, and you also have to bevel this. So everything basically, like every edge, you have to bevel. And then you can mark your seams, subdivide it, and then you unwrap it again. Good. So yeah, this is it basically. Just to make it more real, more realistic, I have a handle here. So I just created a handle, just put it inside here, made something like this. So this is basically just part of this cylinder here. Sorry. So I was just clicking on those faces in the cylinder and I was just extruding it. And then I used the spinning tool just to get a nice round shape here. And yeah, this is basically it. And then you can see, oh, let me clear this one as well. Clear, sharp vertices. So yeah, I did a cut here. I don't mind the cut because this is on the back side, so you will never see. You will never see the cut. And this is also really important. If you have something like this, always try to hide your cuts. Don't put the cut completely in front. Cut your meshes on the side you will barely see in the game. Alright, so place your seams smart. Alright. And yeah, this is what I did. And then on top of that, I just made a screw, just a simple screw here, and then just duplicate this and place it all over this, over the storage. So just a simple, you can put those, how you call that, those things inside here. You can just use a normal map. When we texture, we can just apply a normal map on top of that. Yeah, so this is just one, I basically just got a cylinder, this one. Just RX90, enter, and then you can just scale it down, ES, like so, and then you can just, from the side, GY, do something like this, maybe scale it up, and then you can just E again, scale it down. So yeah, you get the idea, and then ES, do like so, and then maybe E and Y, extruded inwards, ES, and then Control F, grid fill. And then you can just click on this, and this one here, and just Control B. Boom. This is it. Then just right click, shade smooth. And then you have like basically something which looks at least something like a screw. Yeah, and then I was just getting it accordingly, put this here on those corners, made it a little smaller for those things, put them here maybe, so anywhere where it makes sense. And then I had the whole left side, I think it was like 20 screws. And then I was just joining them, Control J, you can join those screws. And then just mirror them on the x-axis. And then you have a perfect copy here on this side. When you mirror something, I told you before, of course make sure your pivot, this pivot point is always exactly in the center. Okay, and this is also a tip when you model something and you're like, oh, okay, I want to model something, and you place it over here and then you continue to model. Never do that, okay? Always keep your mesh exactly on this world origin and perfectly in the center. Never move your mesh around here and then I do this, and I never do that. Always model exactly in the center of your pivot point, which is, let me just Control S, cursor to world origin. You can see. All right. Good, and this is basically the modeling process. So I did show you roughly what I did, not in detail, but roughly, so you get an idea. If you're really interested about like how to model nice looking assets for your game, I will just do a Blender modeling and texturing course in the future, if you like it, okay? But this course is of course about Unreal Engine and game development, and this is just the bonus, what I'm giving you here. And now I will show you the texturing. Back in texturing, you can see that I'm already done with texturing. And I will just quickly guide you through what I basically did, okay? So if I just model this from A to Z, step by step, we are going to have another 2 hours. And this is not really what we need, or at least what we want in this course. So what I did, basically, for every part, so you can see this is the box, then you have this handle, then we have this lock, it's a separate mesh, and we have the top. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 separate meshes, plus the screws. So we have 5 separate meshes. What you need to do in Blender, you assign a material for every single mesh. So I called my material inside Blender, so I assigned material for this one, which is called storage box. This is the box. For the handle here, I applied a separate material just for this mesh called storage handle, and then for this one is a separate material just called it lock. And then I was just selecting those screws, applied also a separate material, and I just called this one storage screws. Good. And then you can just basically inside Blender, you can just shift click everything inside Blender, and then you export selected objects. It's pretty important that you export selected objects. And then you will have something like that. And then you can just texture separately. So most people don't get this correct. Most people think, oh, I have 1K texture, but I would just use one material for everything, and I will just put everything into 4K texture. But the problem is, from 1K to 4K is not 4 times the processing power. It is 16 times. U and V, so you have to consider 4 times, and then this 4 times, another one 4 times. This is the resolution. You have 16 times the resolution compared to a 1K map. And the most people think, okay, a 4K map is just 4 times the resolution. It is not. It's 16 times. So you are perfectly fine to have separate materials and just use 1 or 2K. You can even use 2K for all those, and still you save processing power. Trust me. Or in this case, VRAM. Alright, so, but let's just stop the talking about the technical stuff, and I will show you like my artistic approach. So, let's start with the box. Let me just hide this. So for the box, yeah, you can see now I removed the handle, so this is ambient occlusion. So the first thing I did is you go to mode, and then bake. You bake your mesh maps. So what you just do is you don't need to change anything here. I just disabled ID because ID is not really, doesn't make any sense for me. So my baking textures should be 4K, and I click on low poly mesh as high poly mesh. So use your low poly as high poly because we don't have, this is not a low poly mesh, and we don't need to load or import in high poly, because this is high poly. So this is basically, okay, we use this one as high poly. Then you can do that, and then you can bake. And you wait and wait and wait, and then you can go back to this mode here. And this is something you really have to do. You have to bake all your textures, okay? Because baking textures means you have ambient occlusion, you have curvature, you have thickness, position, world space, normal. This is all stuff. This is all saved. This is information saved in separate textures. And then Substance Painter can use those textures or this information which is inside those baked textures. And then he will do really nice things for you. So he will paint, or he will give you a texture around those edges, maybe from top to bottom, a position, a world space, normal. So he will do some interesting stuff. You don't need. So I'm not really painting. I'm just using baked textures. Of course, still I have to paint. Yes. If I want to remove something or add some special things, then of course I still paint. But in most cases, you don't even need to paint when you bake textures. So yeah. So for the box. I started with a base wood material, so you can just use a smart material. Usually I start with just a base material, or maybe just a single fill layer, and then I will just start with a base color, okay? And then I will continue from there. But in this case, I just wanted to start with a nice looking wood texture. Good, so this is basically the wood texture. Let me just disable everything on top, so you get the idea. So this one looks pretty, now you can see this looks pretty flat, right? But we have some nice, like orange, yellow, brownish color variations. We have this wood fibers, and we have those knots. So it's nice. It's good. But still, it looks really flat and stylized. So this is why we bake. When we bake, I'm using a curvature map. So what we can do here is, first of all, sorry for that, I added a mask in this first wood layer. I added a black mask. When you click on this black mask, because everything in the beginning, the whole box is wood. But we don't want to have this as wood. You can see this is not affected. Those extruded corners here, those are not affected, because I wanted to have this pure metal. So what you can do when you click on this black mask, you can, on the left hand side, you can click on this one, polygon fill. And when you click on this one, you have those red wireframe. And then you have this one, 0 and 1. When you go to 0, so when you drag it down to 0, you can basically click on those, click on this one as well, UV chunk, all right? And then you can click on this, and you can click basically every chunk you not want to have affected. You can just simply click on this, and your mask will just completely avoid those UV chunks. Okay? So this is what I did. So I only wanted to have this wood here. When you lose it, for example, so click on this one. Oh, it's gone. Oh no. So you can just go here. So you make it 1. You click on this. Boom. And it's gone. You apply it again. Alright? And then shift right click and move. And then you can always check every angle according to the light. Okay. The reason why it's so pitch black here is, let me go out of this polygon fill. Let me just go out. The reason why it's completely pitch black is I use shadow. Here, click on this, top right, shadow, and I use shadow to 100%. This is the reason. Okay. So if you just deactivate it, then you don't have this issue. But in my case, I like using a lot of shadow, and then I will just do this. Shift right click. And then you can just reposition your lighting. Good. So now you do know how to apply like a base smart material. Okay, so this is a wood smart material. And then just make sure when you go back to this material, so back from the mask, back to the material, you can make sure, okay, maybe the scale, I want to have the repetition maybe a little higher. Maybe you can click on this lock, then you can change separately the U and V, you can scale it separately. Then make sure the color is right. Just make sure that the base material is looking nice. And the repetitions, so the scaling, everything is nice. The direction, because this has fibers horizontally, okay? I think it's going to look stupid if this is like vertically. If you have trouble, for example, this is vertically, so those fibers are vertically, and then this chunk is maybe rotated. And then, for example, this is horizontally, and this is vertically, this is horizontally, this is vertically, so this is going to look horrible, right? Because you want to have everything from left to right, in this case, the fibers. So what you can do is you change the projection from UV to triplanar. Because if I go to UV, you can see this is vertically, horizontally. This is not really nice. So what I can do, instead of going back into Blender and rotate all my UVs, which is a tedious process, I just go to triplanar. So in this case, for base material, it's perfectly fine. Okay, so the next step is, so I did explain to you the mask that you can with polygon fill, that you can just click on those chunks, make sure you click on this one, and then you click on 0 here, you drag to 0, and then you can basically just disable all those chunks here. You don't want to be affected, or you don't want to have affected, I should say. Good. Then the next one. Now it's getting more interesting. Did I duplicate this? No. Then I created a new fill layer, just a fill layer with roughness and base color. This is it, just like a lighter color. So similar to wood, but light and less reflection. So a higher roughness value means less reflection. And what I did, now you can see it looks a little more, like much more realistic. So now you get this worn wood effect. You can just create a black mask. From the black mask, you can add a generator. And then you can search for a generator called edge, metal edge, or edge wear. And the edge wear is basically this stuff here. So I can just maybe, let's do more like so, more edge smoothness, or maybe like so. So you can play with those values. Maybe more grunge, maybe you want to have more stuff like worn stuff on curvature, so you can just increase the curvature weight. So you can play around with those values. But the reason why it's looking so nice and so good is because we baked our maps. This is why he's like, oh, okay, I put all those things where it makes sense. Okay, so this is why we basically bake. Okay, then on top of that, I just added a paint layer. I added a paint layer, and then I made sure that this one is black. So just you can press X to toggle black and white. Make sure this is black. And then I was just getting a brush like so. Just a brush. Click on this one here, brush. And then I was just erase all those like layers, because I don't want to have this kind of wood effect on my metal. Okay, I don't want to have this stuff on my metal, so you can just erase this with a paint. Just do like so. Okay, you can see here, this is a nice example, you can see a little bit of this one here, so I can just erase this. Okay, good. And then the next thing you can see here is bright wood, so I just added another black mask, and then this time I was also adding a generator, but this time I was adding a generator, let me show you generator, and then you click on this one. I used the so-called world space normals, because we also baked world space normals. And the world space normals, what you can see, he is finding the position from bottom to top and from left to right, and he is giving you a nice result according to your mesh. Right? Then I just added another grunge map, so you can just go to textures here. Textures. Sorry, textures, not material, textures. And then you can scroll down and look for like a grunge, dirt, grunge map, something interesting. You can just drag it on top of your world space normal, so on top of your generator, and then you change from normal to multiply. The reason why we do that, look at this. If I just disable this grunge map, which is multiplied, if I just remove this, you can see how flat this is, like how soft. It's really boring, it doesn't look natural. If you add on top of your generator, or on top of your smart mask, if you add another grunge map, and you choose multiply, then basically, you see, he is basically giving you this grunge effect. Okay, so from this, he's giving you something like this. And this is what we want. So more variations, now it looks really nice. Maybe let's do like so. Now disable, and now you can see. So it's about taste, maybe you don't want that, maybe you want it a bit softer. So, yeah, but always do a little bit. Don't never go overboard in texturing. Trust me, never go overboard. Always add just a tiny effect. And then I took care of the metal. So what I did is basically I just inverted the mask. You can just get this one, and you can copy the mask. Where is it? Yeah, here. No, this is layer. Sorry. You can here control. What is it? Control Alt and C. You can just copy this mask. And then you can just here and then just paste the mask here inside here, and then you can just invert this mask. Right click and then invert mask. Okay, and then everything is affected the opposite way. And this metal finish is just a gray color, so it's just 45% gray. So yeah, a darker gray. Roughness is about 0.4. And metallic, because this is metal stuff, so we need to have metal on completely applied. All right. Then I just duplicated this one. I made it a really shiny metal, so less roughness means more shininess, and a brighter color. So this is just like almost pure white. And then you can get a black mask on this one, on this brighter metal. Right click, add a black mask, add a generator. But this time I was getting another metal edge generator. So the generator is called metal edge. And then you can play around with those values. Then I got another texture on top, like a grunge texture, so a texture like this on top, and change normal to multiply. And then when you just play with the balance, you can see basically what he's doing here. So he's basically just giving it more variation, like more noise. Yeah, but it's up to you. Of course, you have to add a paint, so right click and add a paint, and then you have to choose black, so press X to make it, make your brush black, and of course you have to remove all those stuff inside the wood, because you don't want to have metal edgeware inside your wood. You just remove it with a paintbrush. Okay. And on top of that, I always use a levels, so just right click and add levels, this one. Because levels, you should always finish with levels, because you can make it like a little more saddle, a little softer if you want to, or you can just increase this and make it more really aggressive. But this looks horrible, so I wanted to go with a little more like soft effect. So this, I think this doesn't look really nice, so maybe something like this. Good. And don't go overboard, of course, because this bright metal is underneath, so you can use a height and reduce the height, but don't do something like this. Never do something like this. This is horrible. Just do a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit. This is already enough. Maybe even minus 0.005. Now you can see like how tiny it is. Okay. And then I got like a brown layer with a high roughness, so this is less reflective, and I did position. So a generator, and then you can search a generator called position. And then you can play with those values, and then you get a grunge map again on top of that, multiply it, and you can play around with those values to get a nice, interesting result. And then I just, on top of that, added a paint layer and removed all the dirt on those metal stuff here, right? So it's only applied on the wood. And you can see the position is basically doing, this is really nice when you look at the position. He's going from top to bottom. This is the good thing about those, when you bake mesh maps. This is the reason, because he's doing it for you automatically. Then I added some dirt with ambient occlusion, so you can get a generator called ambient occlusion, which is basically what you can see here. Around all those, like everything, like all the mesh, all the parts which are like closer together, he's going to calculate ambient occlusion. So everything what is like connected or what is closer together, ambient occlusion is going to be used basically. And then also on top of that, added a grunge map with multiply. And if you don't have this, look at this, like how smooth that is. It's not going to look good. So I just added a grunge map with multiply on top. All right, and you can see now like this huge difference. Yeah, looks much more realistic. And then I finished it off with some kind of scratches. For scratches, I used my own map. So this is just, let me see if I can find this. Scratch. Yeah, I don't know. I have my own map, but I can't find it. Wait, isn't it your assets? Is it called your assets? Your assets. Yeah, okay. It's pretty stupid. I don't know why he's hiding my stuff. It's still imported. Can I just right click? No, I can't. Okay. Yeah. So this is my own. This is my own alpha. So you can just drag and drop your own textures. Just drag and drop inside Substance Painter, and then you can just define it as an alpha map or texture. But in this case, it's just a black and white, so it's an alpha. with like some tiny scratches. So it's similar to this, but just a little bit more quality. So something like this. And then, I was just applying it into a mask, into a black mask, and played with those values. So on top of those scratches, I always do a levels. So you can see like this is horrible, but this is more soft. So this is too weak, but then just something like this, just a tiny bit. So this is enough. And then you can see, and on top of that, I added a paint layer. So right click, paint layer, and then you can maybe get a different brush. Search for a nice brush, maybe something like, maybe sandpaper is fine, or maybe like a smooth, noisy. So get an interesting brush, or like a dirt brush or concrete or something like this. And then you can just use this one and paint with, of course, with black. And then you can just a little bit paint, just erase a couple of spots you don't like. Just erase a couple of spots you don't want to have. And you can also play with the strength. So here, this is the strength. And then you can just a little bit, you can just erase stuff. Okay, so this is basically how I work. And then I just copy the whole stuff here, so the whole folder, and put this on the storage top. I was just copying it. But of course, you still have to adjust the scale. So here, make sure that you have the scale and it's right according to the mesh. You have to delete the paint, of course, makes sense, and you have to repaint, and also you have to readjust everything. Change all those masks and those generators according to your mesh, and delete those paintings, and you have to repaint or like erase according to the mesh. This is still what you have to do. But yeah, you get the idea. And then the screws, this was pretty easy. Let me reveal the lock as well. And the handle. Screws is pretty easy. Also, I just did a base material here, base metallic here. Just a gray with some reflection, pure metallic. Then just duplicate this, make a brighter metallic color. And I used the metal edgeware, so black mask, right click, black mask. And from there, inside black mask, add generator, metal edgeware. And then you can just play with those values. And on top of this, I just copied the AO ambient occlusion dirt, just put it here. And you can see what the ambient occlusion is doing. It's really nice. So you don't need to paint. He's already doing it for you. And see, if I just disable the grunge map on top of my generator, look like how flat that is. Like how stylized it looks. So this is why I always put on my generators or smart masks, I always put a grunge map on top and multiply it. To have like this grunge variation, basically, just like I told you before. And yeah, then I did the same thing, just copied the material and just reassigned all those settings according to the mesh. So you can see here, it looks good. You can see also like this dark spots. This is ambient occlusion, right? So I didn't paint anything here. I didn't paint this. This is all baked into the ambient occlusion. Yeah, this is the texture for the storage. And then I can just export this. Let me save first. And then just export, no, not the mesh. Textures, export, and I make sure I have 4K for everything. Let me get this into my folder, locker room, storage, new folder, and call this one textures. Choose this one. So PNG is fine. If you want to save, if you want to save RAM or like space in general, you can use JPEG, but let's just keep PNG. To have good quality. So we need everything except for emissive and height. We don't need height. And emissive and height, just disable emissive and height. And in this case, we need the metal texture for everything. Alright, so everything has a metal part, I believe, yeah. So this is why we need base color, roughness, normal, and for everything we need metallic. So and then I will just export. And this is it. This is how you basically, like roughly, how you model something like this, and how you can apply nice looking textures.